So welcome to our Funky Arm Balances workshop for Pulsefear. I have a rabbit, which you don't need, and I also have a couple of blocks, which you don't need, but can make some of the poses a little bit easier. We're also going to use the blocks to check our alignment in a couple of things, but you don't have to use a block. You could use a water bottle, that would be totally fine. It's just to make sure our forearms are vertical, which is going to help with our setup for a lot of the poses that we're doing today. So we'll start out on all fours. We'll just get everything warmed up. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips, and we'll begin by circling our shoulders around our wrists. So shoulders are going right of the wrists, left of the wrists, forward of the wrists, back of the wrists. Now please pay attention to your body as we're going through this class together. Don't push through anything that feels painful or uncomfortable or just not good or not right for you. Same thing in the other direction. So feel free to change what I'm saying. You can modify it, you can adapt it. You can even skip some bits out. I am always a firm believer that half-hour workout, showing out to a class, doing 50% of the class is better than doing 0% of the class. Just coming back to stillness, and we're moving forward and back now. So shoulders are going forward of the wrists and shoulders are going back of the wrists. Just gonna make sure my phone is on flight mode. Beautiful. So shoulders going forward and back. So this forward action is going to be really important for what we're doing today. Really think about initiating the movement back by pressing into the fingertips. So shoulders go forward, you press the fingertips to initiate the movement back. This is also going to be really important for what we're going through today. We'll take 3 more of these. So 3, press with the finger pads. 2, press back. Last one. Little bit of strength work for our wrists now. Shoulders directly over the wrists. Coming into some first knuckle push-ups. So palms lift off and palms drop down. See if you can keep the shoulders directly over the wrists. To make it easier, you can move the shoulders back a little bit. To make it harder, move them forward a little bit. We'll take 3 more like this. So 3, 2, and 1. Starting to warm up into the shoulders now. Just some shrugs to start with. So arms stay straight, you drop the chest down, and then you lift your heart up away from the floor. Making sure all 4 corners of the palms are pressing down into the floor. Holding at the top of the shrug, just bringing opposite hand to opposite shoulder. Lower your elbow towards the floor. Keep this supporting arm straight. And now turn your elbow, your chest, your head up towards the ceiling. Don't move your hips. So lowering it down to the floor, supporting arm stays straight. Lifting up to the ceiling, hips don't move. So just warming up through our spine and getting into some shoulder stability. We'll take 3 more like this. So 3, lift it up as high as it goes, don't move the hips. 2, last one, drop it down and lift it up. Straight away to the other side. So hand down, opposite hand comes over to the shoulder, the collarbone. You're lowering down, supporting arm stays straight. Rotating, looking up towards the ceiling. Lower the elbow towards the floor. It probably won't go all the way down. And we'll take 3 more like this. So 3, 2, and 1. Still warming up into the wrists. Hands go the opposite way to normal, and we'll come into a few rounds of cat-cow. So tucking in the chin, tucking the hips under, and then arching the back, lifting the tailbone. So your fingertips are pointing back towards your knees, so your hands are the opposite way to normal. We'll take 3 more like this. So 3, 2, and 1. Making your way back into downward facing dog, and just taking a moment here, pedaling out through the legs, maybe swishing the hips a little bit from side to side. We'll take a couple of transfers forward to plank and back to downward facing dog. So shift the shoulders over in front of the wrists, and here's where we want that forward feeling. Bring the shoulders just in front of the wrists, bend the knees, press back, downward facing dog. We'll take a few more rounds like this. So lead from your upper back as you come forward to plank. Come a little bit further than normal, bend the knees, chest to thighs, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Couple more of these. Forward to plank. Little bit further forward, bend the knees, chest to thighs, lift the hips, downward facing dog. We'll make this the last one. Come forward to plank. Come a little bit further forward, hover the knees, chest to thighs, lift the hips, downward facing dog. We'll take a couple of breaths here. Think about turning your armpits to face each other and pressing the top of your mat forward. So I'm really actively pushing my hands and arms towards the top of my mat. I want to try and create a straight line between my wrists and my hips here. Lifting the heels now, coming down onto the knees. Back to normal cat-cow. So rounding out the spine, tucking in the chin, arching the back, lifting the tailbone, heart moves forward. Couple more of these, round out, tuck in, really starting to work into the spine, getting everything nice and warm. And the next time you're in cat, so the next time your spine is rounded out, we're actually going to stay here. So staying in cat pose, and once again, moving the shoulders just a tiny bit forward of the wrists. So from cow, we come to cat, we move forward, we come back to cow. Couple more like this. Round out the spine, cat pose, shoulders in front of the wrists, come into cow, shift back. Last one, round out the spine, shift forward, arch the back, move the hips back. Let's make it harder. Tuck the toes, we're coming to plank. Make this like a cat plank. So round out the spine, tuck the hips under, and again, we're working on that forward feeling. So shoulders come just a little bit further forward than you would normally. Bend the knees, this time we just come back to plank. Again, round out the spine, shoulders forward of the wrists, bend the knees, shift back to plank. Back to what we were doing before, adding this in. Rounding out the spine, shoulders forward, bend the knees, chest to thighs, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Couple more of these. So round out the spine, come forward, come all the way forward. So a little bit more than you would normally. We're in this cat plank. Hover the knees, chest to the thighs, lift the hips, downward facing dog. Two more. Round out the spine, come forward to plank. Really round out, it's not a normal plank. Shoulders a little bit further forward, hover the knees, chest to thighs, lift the hips. This is your last one. Forward to plank. Remember, it's cat plank, not normal plank. Spine is rounded, hips are tucked, shoulders are a little bit further forward than normal. Hover the knees, chest to thighs, downward facing dog. Take a couple of breaths here, maybe pedaling out through the legs, moving the hips, like a little break. And we are going to warm up your hips a little bit now. So let's start with the right leg, stepping it outside the right hand, drop the back knee down. Make sure your foot is directly under your knee. Left hand will come to the floor and we'll start to circle the right arm. So opening the chest up to the ceiling, looking back towards the hand, and then sweeping the hand forward. So palm to the sky as the hand comes back, and palm to the floor as you sweep it forward. Two more big circles like this, palm to the sky, and sweep it forward. Last one, palm to the sky, and sweep, pause, go the opposite direction, exactly the same thing. Really thinking about rotating the chest up to the ceiling as you take the hand back behind you. Three more this direction. 3, 2, and 1. Hand is going to come down on the inside of the foot now. tuck the back toes, lift the back knee, and working into the hips. So I'm just going to move my blocks so you can see we're pushing forward and back into this back foot. So almost like you come to the toes and then you push back through the heel. Push through the toes, back through the heel. I wish you could see the rabbit. He's fully destroying my notes. You can stop that, honey. 2 more like this. Forward. He always does it like just off camera. So he's like eating my lights or eating my power cords. I'm like, ah. All right, this time we're pressing back through the heel. We're staying here. Oh, now he's going to eat the yoga blocks. Straighten out the front leg as much as you can. And then bend the knee, open the heart forward and up. So sink the hips as low as they go. A few more of these. Straighten the front leg as much as you can. And then bend the front knee, heart lifts forward and up. You can think about breathing out as you shift the hips back. And breathing in as you open the heart forward. 2 more of these. 1. And down. And 2. And down, beautiful. Your right hand is going to thread underneath the right leg. So it's come to the outside of the foot. So threads under to the outside. Toe heel the right foot across until it's around about directly underneath your nose. Drop your right knee out to the right. It's kind of a very intense version of pigeon pose. We'll make this a little bit more relaxed. Drop the back knee, untuck the back toes. If you can, right knee goes all the way down to the floor, and if you would like to, chest can drop down onto your big toe. Optional, I'm going to stay here. 3 breaths in this position, really big opening through the right hip. And then slowly untangling everything, we will meet back in downward facing dog. A couple more of those ripples forward. So lead from the upper back, come forward to plank. Make it cat plank. So round out the spine, tuck the hips. See how far forward you can go. So see I'm right up on my tippy toes? Should be a little bit harder than normal. Still make sure it's a plank, not up in a downward dog, but we are tucking the hips and rounding the spine. Hover the knees, chest to thighs, lift the hips. 2 more of these. Forward to plank, make it a cat plank. Hover the knees, chest to thighs, downward facing dog, and this will be your last one. Come forward to plank, cat plank. Hover the knees, chest to thighs, downward facing dog. Just taking a moment here, pedaling out the feet, moving the hips, doing whatever you need to do. And then we'll do all of this on the other side. So left foot steps outside the left hand. Drop your back knee to the floor, right hand down, circling the left arm. So palm to the sky, chest to the sky, reach back, and then sweep it forward. Palm to the sky, chest to the sky, reach back, and sweep forward. So maybe taking a breath in here when your chest is open, and a breath out here when your chest is a little more compressed. Pause where you are and reverse. Same thing, breathing out when the chest is folding forward and breathing in when the chest is open. Making this your last one. Left hand comes down on the inside of the left foot. Tuck your back toes, lift your back knee, straightening and bending this front leg. So it doesn't have to go completely straight as long as you're working into the hamstring of the left leg and the hip flexor of the right leg. We're doing well. So heart opens forward as you drop the hips down and head can drop down as you straighten the leg. 3 more like this. So 3, 2, last one. Getting into that hip flexor a little bit more now, forward and back. So press into the toes and then press through the heel. Keep the hips as low as you can and really think about shooting that heel back towards the back of your mat. for 3, 2, and 1. Working into the outside of the hip now. Left hand comes underneath the foot. Toe heel the foot into the center of the mat. Knee drops out towards the side. We'll stay in this lifted version just for a couple of breaths, then we'll make it a little bit more relaxed. It's a very intense hip opener. So you're on the outside edge of that left foot. Back knee down, untuck the toes. And then maybe left knee to the floor, maybe chest onto your left big toe. I'm gonna stay here. 3 breaths in this position. Slowly releasing, untangling, coming out. We're coming to kneeling and just giving our wrists a little circle. So everything should be a little bit warmer now. What we're going to do is use either our blocks, our drink bottle, invisible blocks also work for this, okay? Tin of food would work. Anything that is vertical. We're just going to look at our alignment for our arm balances. So I will grab blocks and I will grab a drink bottle. So I can demo both options for you. So what we're going to look at is a little bit of a mini tricep press, but without knocking over our blocks or our drink bottle. So I'll demo on both. We'll do this on all fours to start. So this is that idea that we've been exploring of shifting the weight forward, and now we're adding on a bend of the arms. Okay, so what you'll notice, or what you're trying to get, is your forearm to be perfectly vertical. So the block can be right, or drink bottle, or tin of food, can be right up against your forearm. We really want that feeling of shifting the weight forward. This is a big part of arm balances, shifting the weight forward. So when you lower down, you make a 90-degree angle at the elbow. So if you're going to do it with a drink bottle, you just don't knock over the drink bottle. So drink bottle is directly behind your wrist, and you want that same thing of moving forward and then bending the arms without knocking anything over. So the bottle is directly behind my arm and we're not going to knock it over. Challenge! But this is really relevant because whenever we're doing arm balancing, we want to stack ourselves on our bones. So we really want these forearms to be vertical. And then often we're trying to make a little shelf out of the upper arm. So we want the upper arm to be horizontal. So we're coming to a right angle. Yeah? Beautiful. If you want to make that substantially harder, you can try it on your toes. So you do the same thing. Whatever you're using, tin of food, drink bottle, anything, it's just there to help keep you accountable and make sure you're not knocking anything over. Yeah, so you really want to think about that travel forward that we've been looking at, and then bending the arms, trying to make a 90-degree angle at the elbow. We're going to take a break and do some, well, it's an arm balance, but it's one of the more restful ones. Sitting down, take a hold of one of your legs. It doesn't matter which one, because you have to do both. One of my friends who's a teacher used to refer to this as like the telephone move. I'm going to turn the slide on. So it's like you're bringing your foot to your ear like a phone. All right, so I'm holding the outside edge of my foot. I'm trying to keep my spine up nice and tall. I'm extending the leg as much as it goes. It doesn't have to go straight. And then I'm pulling it back towards the ear as much as it can. Yeah, it's going to depend on your hip mobility as to how far it goes. We'll take 4 or 5 more of these. You can go as slow or as fast as you like. Just make sure you feel that stretch around the outside of the hip at the back of the movement. Last 2. And 1. Beautiful. We're going to hook same arm as leg underneath. So you're putting it on like a little bit of a jacket, yeah? The other leg goes out straight. 2 hands to the floor. We're trying to press into the floor and lift our hips off the floor and lower back down. Feel free to readjust your jacket if you need to. Make sure the hands are under the shoulders. You're grabbing the floor with your hands. Lift your hips up and lower back down. Really think about scooping your belly back and up. This time, let's make it a little bit harder. Lift your hips up. See if you can hover your other foot off the floor. For 4, 3, 2, 1. Release. One more quick round of telephone with this leg, same leg. So holding the outside edge of the foot. I like to bend the bottom leg in, you don't have to. We'll take 4, 3, 2, and 1. And then it's time to change sides. So bend this leg down, other leg comes up. You're holding the outside edge of the foot. See if you can lift the spine up nice and tall throughout the whole thing, so we're not rounding, and telephone away like you're bringing your foot up towards your ear. So the leg's just going as straight as feels okay for you. You can absolutely still be bent. And then you're bringing the foot towards the ear, really opening up through the hip. For 4, 3, 2, and 1. Put it on like a jacket, like a cardigan. So try and hook it up as high on your shoulder as you can. Your other leg will go out straight. Hands to the floor. See if you can lift the hips. So press your supporting leg into the floor to help you lift, and then lower back down. Maybe readjust the foot, maybe roll out the wrists. One more like this. Hands into the floor, fingers are spread out, grab the floor, lift the hips. Beautiful. On this one, we add on hands to the floor, grab the floor, lift the hips, hover the foot for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Release everything back down. One more lot of telephone, holding the outside of the foot, coming forward and pulling back. 4, 3, 2, and 1. Beautiful. So this pose we've just done is called elephant trunk. Just like you've kind of got the ear and the trunk of the elephant. Moving into a pose called Lolasana. So just sitting with legs crossed. I'll give you 2 variations of this, one with blocks and one without. Hands to the floor, directly under your shoulders. Grab the floor with your hands. Lift your hips up and then see if you can shift your hips back slightly. So you're pushing into the floor with your ankles and then come back down. I'm just going to keep adding on so you can choose your level. Push into the floor, hips up, hips back, feet off the floor. Next level. Push into the floor, hips up, hips back, feet off, legs straight. Now we can do all of those. You get like 1 or 2 more goes of that now. Choose your level. This is a little bit easier if you use blocks because you make a little bit more space for yourself. So maybe change the cross of your legs. Press into the floor. Lift the hips off the floor. See if you can take your hips back slightly. Really thinking about lifting, that same feeling we had in our shrugs in the warm-up. Release back down. Let's make it harder. Push into the blocks. Lift, shift back, feet off. Release. Last one. Lift, shift back, feet off, legs straight. Release. Beautiful. So with blocks or without blocks, this is a really nice warm-up for arm balances. All right, let's move on. Maybe give your wrists a little roll out. And we're going to shift into a couple of different variations of crow, of Bakasana. So have your hands flat on the floor. You're in a little squat. The first version we're going to do is knees on the outsides of the triceps. So try to get the knees up nice and high, squeeze them onto the outsides of the triceps, lean forward into the fingertips, and this is that same feeling of coming forward enough so forearms become vertical and upper arms are working towards horizontal. So just take a few tips forward and back. Maybe lifting up one foot as you come forward. Maybe lifting up both feet as you come forward. Really think about grabbing the floor with the hands, and obviously the knees are helping to keep the elbows in, but you really want the elbows to be bending back, not out to the sides. Let's make this a little bit harder. This time, knees are going to come up almost to the armpits, on the backs of the arms. So on this first version, my knees were on the outsides. Now I'm bringing my knees onto the backs of the arms. This is very much what we were practicing before, of leaning forward, getting the forearms to come vertical, and bringing the big toes together. Another way of doing this is to take a block, hands flat to the floor, hips lift up, knees towards the armpits, and you actually bring your head down to the block, and that will help you find balance here. From here, you're just working on lifting the head. I'll give you guys a couple of goes of this one. So maybe using the block, maybe you prefer the knees on the outside, that's fine. I am going to give you one more option as well. So today we're going to be doing 4 different variations of crow. So far we've done knees on the outside, knees on the back. What we're going to try now is knees over the elbows. So on our second version, we had the knees up quite high onto the triceps. So on this next version, the knees will be a little bit further down the arms. So now my knees are just above my elbows. If you can get 2 feet off the floor, try to bring your toes together. But you'll notice what's happening is I'm leaning far enough forward so that my forearms go vertical. Same thing if you want to with the block. You bring your head onto the block. So knees come onto the tops of the elbows, the bottoms of the triceps. Head can come down to the block, find your balance, and then start to work at lifting the head. So I'm doing that by pressing my fingertips into the floor. And yes, it does hurt a little bit on the arms. So just go nice and slow. So on any of these options, maybe you're just getting 1 foot off the floor, maybe you're getting the other foot off the floor, maybe both feet come off the floor. Don't forget to use that option of the block under the head if you want that little bit of extra support. It just gives you an extra strut in the structure, yeah? An extra column of support or foundation. So I think we've done these in order of easier to harder, but you might find one of the harder ones suit you better. So again, what we just did was knees on the outside, and this can be really helpful if your elbows tend to splay a little bit. The knees will help corral them in. Then we've also done knees on triceps. So I'm using my legs to get my knees up nice and high into my triceps. And then the last version, which I think is probably one of the more challenging versions, was knees right up above the elbows. So a little bit lower down on the triceps for that last one. What we're going to try now is a forearm crow. So this one looks a bit unusual, and your face is about yay far from the floor, okay? It's like here. So forearms down to the floor. This one is different to what we've been doing. We are leaning well forward in this one, so it's a little bit more challenging. Getting into it is a little bit tricky. We're trying to bring our knees up onto the outsides of the triceps, just like we did in our first version of crow. So I would recommend bringing one up, bringing the other up, and then we start to lean forward until we find our balance. But you will be very close to the floor. So you're in a squat, forearms come down to the floor. You can be out here in the long squat. And then you start to creep your legs in, Leaning forward, knees on the outside. Try and bring your big toes to touch. But again, very close to the floor. Not even giving you the option of a block. There's no room for a block in this one. Have a couple of goes of that. See how that feels. So forearm crow. And then what we're going to do is put the two together. Alright, how to go? It is challenging. We are going to try and do funky crow. So one forearm, one hand. So what you want to think about is my elbow is directly under my shoulder, and then my hand is going to be directly under my other shoulder. So remember in that first version of crow, we were not letting the elbows go out to the side? Same. Really hug this elbow back behind you. You want to make a shelf out of your upper arm. So lower arm is vertical, upper arm is working towards horizontal. What I normally do is position the knee first on the back of the bent elbow, and then bring the other leg around onto the back of the other tricep. I'll turn around so you can see from the other side as well. So forearm to the floor. Your hand is in line with your elbow. Your hand is directly underneath your shoulder. I bring the knee up onto the elbow first, and then start to bring the other leg around onto the back/outside of the tricep. So it's a little bit of a combination of what we've been doing already. So one forearm, one hand, funky crow. Make sure you do both sides. So left forearm, right hand, and also right forearm, left hand. Really look at your setup. So the elbow needs to be under the shoulder and the hand needs to be under the other shoulder. The elbow is not going out to the side, it's going back behind you. Knee comes up onto the elbow, other knee comes round onto the back/outside. So with this one, you can pretty much do any of those knee options on this arm that we did earlier in Bakasana in crow. So you can have the knee around the outside if you prefer that. You can have it up on the tricep if you liked that, or you can have it just on top of the elbow. So around the outside, just here. Trying to bring the toes together behind you. But it's that same thing that we had at the start of the class, that leaning forward feeling, so that when we bend the arms, the lower arm is vertical. Just like we did with our blocks or our water bottle. Just go nice and slow for this one. Have a couple more goes and a drink, and then we'll move on. So have a little drink, have a little rest, roll out your wrists, give your triceps a bit of a rub, a bit of recovery. We're going to come into crow again and side crow, but on our backs, okay? So when you're ready, a little bit of ab activation. We're going to start with the elbows, the knees around the outsides version of crow, okay? So imagine you're on the floor, squeeze the knees in towards you, lift your head and shoulders off the floor. Now try and curl your tailbone up off the floor. Create a serious conversation between your elbows and your legs, okay? So elbows are pushing out, legs are pushing in, everything is quite engaged, should be quite challenging, and release. We'll do the same thing now with side crow. So just pick a side. Knees go to one shoulder, and then two hands come around the other side. We want to create a conversation once again between this leg and this arm. So I'm pressing my arm into the leg and my leg back into the arm. So there's a lot of, I don't know, counter forces. My arms pushing out, my legs are pushing in. Release, back to the center. Same thing to the other side. So knees go towards the opposite shoulder. Upper body peels off. See how high up on your tricep you can get the outside of your leg, and then create that conversation. So legs and arm are pressing in towards each other. See if you can get your shoulder blades off the floor for this one. And release. One more to each side. So back to the first side. Knees to one shoulder, arms go the other way. See how high up on your tricep you can bring your knees. Shoulder blades off the floor, and then create that conversation. Yeah, those two opposing forces. Your arm and your knee are seriously resisting each other. Release. Last time. Knees towards one shoulder, arms go the other way. See how high up on your body you can get your knees. And then create that sense of opposing forces between the arm and the legs. Shoulder blades off if you can. And release. Whew. Take a little break, stretch everything out. And then we'll come up and try that with gravity. This was the zero gravity version. Now we'll try it with gravity. So make your way up into a little squat with knees together. So here, we'll start out just by taking a little twist. So your heels can be lifted here. Try and have your big toes touching. Hands together in prayer at your heart. We'll start out by taking our right elbow across, so outside the left knee. And then what I want you to do is look at your knees, accurate self-assessment, make the knees line up, yeah? So that right knee is going to want to pop out in front, and you're going to stop that happening. So you're pressing into the elbow, pressing into the left palm, twisting the heart up towards the thumbs, but just keep half an eye on your knees, yeah? You want the knees, the tips of the knees, exactly lined up with each other. Once you are sure they are lined up, then you can turn and look over your left shoulder. Release. Hands to the floor, come onto the knees. Hands come back behind, just stretching out through the tops of the feet. I like to do this one knee at a time. So I'm leaning back and bringing the knee up towards me. And the tops of my feet, turn side on, are flat to the floor. So just releasing through the front of the ankle, the tops of the feet, and then we'll try the other side. So popping back up into your little squat. Big toes together. Hands together in prayer at the heart. Squeeze the insides of your ankles towards each other. Left elbow comes across. See how high up your thigh you can get it, so how close to your hip you can get it. But the condition is that left knee is not popping out in front. So look at the knees. Make sure they're exactly even. The tips of the knees are lined up. Create a little bit of a conversation, a little bit of resistance between the arm and the leg, between the leg and the arm. And then when you're ready, if your knees are not moving, we'll look over the right shoulder. As a rabbit comes running in. Hey, buddy. Release. This time, if you'd like to, you can try and do this 2 legs at once. See if you like that. I definitely prefer one at a time. Do whatever you can. You're just releasing out of the tops of your feet. Rabbit's feeling super energetic. Just come to do Shavasana on my mat. All right, we're going to try the same thing. We're going to make it a little bit harder. So back into your little squat. We'll go back to right elbow traveling across first. So right elbow travels across. Remember, we try to get it quite high up on the thigh. So try and get as much contact between tricep and leg as possible. 2 options with this left arm this time. One is, well, actually there's 3 really, depending on your hip and leg length. One is you actually connect it to your hip, yeah? This is just gonna depend on the length of your bones. Option 2, you just hug it in beside you, hug it in beside. So here, both of these, my elbows are still pointing back behind me. Okay, final option, and it's just up to you which one you like. This is different to what we've done so far. The elbow actually bends out to the side. So see how I'm no longer in a tricep push-up? It's more like a normal push-up, like a frame. I'm gonna go over all of those again, okay? So option 1, it'll just depend on the length of your arm and leg, not physically possible for everybody, is the elbow actually touches the side of the body. And what we're doing, if I turn here, you can see I'm leaning forward, so my forearms become vertical and my upper arms are working towards horizontal. Option 2 is you just hug it into the side of the body. So it's not tucked under you, you're not resting on a shelf, it's just hugged in. So for this one, both elbows are pointing back behind you. And the last option, hello! The last option is to have the arm out to the side so you make like a frame. Again, all 3 perfectly fine. That last one is probably the most challenging. Give them a go, see which one is best for you. So again, the options are right up on the hip, hugged into the side of the body, or out like a frame. Choosing whichever one is best for you. Again, the feeling is what we've been doing so far, this leaning forward, so the forearms get to vertical. So we're making like a stack or a foundation for a building. A building foundation is never like this, yeah? It's straight up and down. And then we're going to move to the other side. So same thing, you're in your little squat. This time it'll be your left elbow coming across. Create that conversation between tricep and thigh. 3 options for where you're putting your right arm. It's either going underneath you, again, not possible for everybody, it depends on the length of your bones. You're hugging it into the side, or you're making that frame shape. So if it's underneath you, I've basically just made a shelf of my 2 triceps and I'm resting on the shelf. If it's hugging into the side, it's a little bit harder, there's no shelf over here. But I'm still leaning on that arm, I'm still using it for a little bit of support. Hardest option, this arm is not providing actual structural support, I'm just using the strength of the arm out in that frame shape. So for this one, just to note, my left elbow is pointing back and my right elbow is pointing out to the side. So they're pointing 2 different directions. This one is doing like a tricep push-up and this one is doing like a normal chest push-up. Have a little go of that, see which option suits you best. See if you prefer it right underneath you, hugged into the side, or out like a frame. Again, we do want that feeling of leaning forward enough so the weight comes into the finger pads. Remember that first exercise we did where we leant forward and then we pressed back with the finger pads? We really want to come far enough forward so the fingers are what is taking the weight almost. So when we feel our fingertips start to kick in, that means when we've got to vertical, basically. And it's our fingers that are preventing us from falling over onto our face. You can also use a block in this one. Again, the idea is we're just creating an extra little base of support. You bring your head onto the block, find your balance, and then work on lifting the head off the block. You'll need to experiment with what height, and you'll need to experiment with where exactly the block needs to go for you. He just loves Zoom. Tammy, have you got to stop him from like destroying everything around you as well?
Yeah, she just keeps going for the stairs all the time. We haven't got a gate up yet. And, you know, she's a climber, so she's getting into everything.
Wow. Of course, you know what? Of course she's a climber. Of course she is.
Yeah.
All right. I want to add on to this one. So remember a moment ago, I demonstrated bringing your head onto a block from side crow. What we're going to do is bring our head to the floor from side crow. So you're just going to go back to your preferred option. Okay. So frame, hugging, or resting, your choice. And very slowly, you're going to bring the side of your head, your temple, down to the floor. So if you've got your right arm across, make sure you're looking the same direction as your knees, okay? So I'm coming down just very, very slowly, resting the side of my head to the floor. If you want an extra challenge, try and hold in your crow before you come back down to the floor. So rather than just tipping straight out, you hold and pause on the exit. I'll demo one on the other side. You're going to have to do both sides. So this works with all three options, yeah? The frame, the hug, or the resting, your choice. Make sure you look the same direction as your knees and just very gently, very slowly bringing the side of your head to the floor. So make sure you do both sides. Yeah, look towards the knees. Or look towards your baby, I don't know. Like So again, what this is doing is it's giving us another point of contact with the floor, yeah? Now we're using the temple, the side of the head. So right up here, not the cheek, not the nose, the side, the temple. So we're getting that extra point of contact. And again, if you want that challenge, you pause on the way out. Oh, very challenging. Yes, Tammy, that was good. Yeah, where's my pause on the way out? Come on. We're going to add on to this. So we get set up. We do side crow. We lower our head to the floor. This is where we're at. Now, I need you to change the direction of your knees and feet. Your knees go down, your feet go up. So there's a real sort of twist through the body. It's okay, I'm about to do it. And then we'll extend one leg. So get set up, side crow. Doesn't matter which arm variation, frame, in, or resting, your choice. Side of head to the floor. So here is where we really need to change direction. So see, I'm taking my feet to the sky and my knees to the floor. And then there will only be one leg that you can straighten. The other one will not. And again, extra challenge. Try and find that side crow for a moment on your way out. I'll demo one on the other side. So, making sure you're looking the same direction as the knees. Very slowly lowering down, temple to the floor. Knees down, toes up. There will only be one leg you can move. Bend it back in. Try and find side crow as you exit. Do you want to take one more on each side of this one? Go on. So this one's called Fallen Angel. So very gently, bring the temple to the floor, change the direction, knees down, toes up. Really take a moment there, make sure knees are down, toes are up, and then only one of your legs will go straight. The other one is like the linchpin to holding you there. So the one that's not resting on the elbow will be the one that goes straight. So really shift the weight forward, bring the forearms, yes. Knees down, toes up, one leg goes straight. Yes. So good, Tammy. Hold tight grip. I'll do it. Challenge. Yeah, mine wasn't going real well. Awesome. So good. Give your triceps a little bit of a rub out. Give your wrists a little bit of a roll out. Coming back to that cat-cow with reverse hands. Just starting to work out through the forearms now. So hands out in front, fingertips down, palms down. Cat-cow with that added forearm stretch. So just starting to release through your spine, stretch out through your abdominals, and stretch out through your forearms. And then we'll take our hands the opposite way, so sink back, hands go the other way, backs of the hands to the floor. Have the feeling of pressing the backs of your hands forward here. Release. We're coming to sit, both legs out straight in front. Bend your right leg, take it up and over. Wrap your left arm around, take a twist, looking over your right shoulder. And here, even look out of the right corners of your eyes. Facing your feet. Take your right knee on top of your left knee. So in theory, knees are directly on top of each other. In reality, maybe not. Left foot is flexed, lift up nice and tall. Have the feeling of bringing your ribs over your knees. So ribs are coming onto your shin is the feeling. Nice straight spine, really flex this bottom foot. So we're working into the outside band of that left leg. Sitting back slightly, pull this left heel around to your right hip. So knees are still stacked on top of each other. Take your left arm out to the side and it's going to come, or the hand is going to come onto the left shoulder blade. And then you're using the right hand just to get the fingers a little bit further down the shoulder blade. So rather than pulling the elbow across, you're thinking about the fingers traveling down the shoulder blade. Take the arms out to the side, bring the left arm across, pull it in. Shoulder is down out of your ear and arm is parallel with the floor. Release, hands back behind, untwirl the legs and take them the other way. So now right leg is out straight, left leg is over the top. So we're starting with our twist. So right leg straight, left leg bent, wrap the arm around, lift up nice and tall, looking over the left shoulder, looking out of the left corners of the eyes. I'm going to look out of the right corners of the eyes because the rabbit is near my lights. So this just means the twist is coming all the way from the base of the spine, right up into the muscles of the face and head. Release, look towards your outstretched leg, stack this knee on top, lift up tall, flex your bottom foot, coming forward, ribs coming towards the shin. So trying to have a straight spine here. Hands can be out in front or hands can be behind. Make sure your neck is in line with your spine for this one and do really flex this foot. So toes back towards the shin. Bunny, no. Now he's eating the table. Lifting up, sweep your right foot around to your left hip. So our knees are stacked on top of each other. And this time it's your right arm coming onto the right shoulder blade, and you're using the left hand just to get the fingers a little bit further down the shoulder blade. Keep your bottom ribs knitting in towards each other, so we're not flaring out through the rib cage. Bottom ribs are pulling in towards each other, just opening out through that right tricep. And then same thing, right arm wraps round in front, pulling it across, shoulder is down out of your ear, and arm is parallel with the floor. Release, untangle the legs, give them a little shake. We're just coming to kneel. Take the arms out to the sides, bring the right arm underneath the left. 3 options here. One is just to hold opposite shoulders, so like you're giving yourself a hug. Second option is backs of the hands together. And third option is palms of the hands together. It does not matter which one. Whichever option you're in, lift your elbows up to the sky. And whichever option you're in, round out your spine, bring your elbows towards your belly button, let your head drop down. So we're trying to open out into that space between the shoulder blades. Elbows up to the sky once again. Untangle the arms, take them round behind you, interlace the fingers, press the knuckles down to the floor, so opening out through the top of the chest. And then reach the arms out to the side. This time your left arm comes underneath, the elbows are stacked on top of each other. 3 options, holding the shoulders, backs of the hands, or palms of the hands. Your choice. Elbows go up to the sky. Round out the spine, elbows to navel. Really let the head drop here, feeling that opening in the space between the shoulder blades. Elbows to the sky. Take the arms round behind, interlace the fingers the less natural way, so the other index finger is on top, press the knuckles to the floor, open through the heart. And release. Thank you so much for joining me for this Funky Arm Balances workshop. Thank you.